Welcome back to the podcast. As I close in on episode 100, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome onto the show Steve Diggle of the Buzzcocks. Founding member, he was there at the start of punk, and he's still going strong almost 50 years later. Steve is about to release a book next week, August the 22nd, and we spoke about that as well as all of his career. It was an absolute honour to welcome this legend onto the show. Without a shadow of a doubt, an absolute dream guest. Please keep liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing on the podcast, but more importantly, enjoy.
True words spoke, a laugh untouched, so we both joke, this will come, if you stay.
On the podcast today, I have rock legend Steve Diggle, original member of the Buzzcocks, still going strong, nearly 50 years on from starting out. We're going to talk about all Steve's career, along with his autobiography, Autonomy, which is out later on this month. But what we're going to do before that is we're going to get right back to the start, which is helpful because we get lots of info from the book, which I've read, and it's a cracking read. So, Steve, what was life like for a young Steve Diggle growing up in Manchester?
Yeah, that was it. I was born on Oxford Road, just in the centre of Manchester. Moved to a place called Longtown. I said we had a semi-detached house with a garden, so I was a little isolated in there. Mm-hmm. And by the age of 7, moved to the terrace streets, and there was all these street gangs, and I loved it. And I had a little suede coat. I remember zipping that up and walking down the street, looking at all the gangs on the corners, and it seemed a bit daunting, really. But then I really got into it, and there was a good spirit around there. We used to play a lot of football at the end of the street, have little gang wars about the bonfire wood and stuff like that. But it was a kind of exciting place, really. It was all like close-knit community stuff. Then the Beatles had just brought out Love Me Do, 1962. George Best had just joined Manchester United. So I liked the football and I loved the music, My cousin was, he lived a few doors down, and you could hear through the window Elvis Presley and Little Richard and Chuck Berry, which I liked. The animalistic stuff of Little Richard and, Chuck Berry and Elvis. Now, my little mate, his sister was about 16, and she bought the first Beatles album, because albums are expensive then, and the first Bob Dylan album. So I went across the road to listen to those, and she was drying her long blonde hair with a hairdryer, which I'd never seen in my life. In the 50s, the Russians had put a Sputnik on the moon. I thought something like that, But watching her dry long blonde hair and listening to the first Beatles album with Bob Dylan, that crystallized my life, really. It was a magic moment watching all that, do her drying hair, and then the music. And so that really drew me into the music. And it was the beginning of the 60s, really, with like the Kinks, the Who, all these kind of.
There was so much. It's a melting pot.
Yeah. So it was all right, child of the 60s, the right age, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1965, I bought the album Help when I was 10.
Right.
You couldn't afford an album for years, So that was a big deal. And I went with my grandmother to a shop that sold like vacuum cleaners and washing machines. And there was 2 shelves in the corner that had the records. Amazing, isn't it?
Just going back a bit, obviously, you mentioned when you were 7 year old, you moved to that new area. One of the stories in the book, probably the earliest punk memory of yourself would be you and your pals trashing your friend's living room. So that was a punky first right there.
Yeah, that was very strange. Um, we was sat outside my mate's grandmother's house, who lived in the same street, and she was just going to the bookmakers. And something happened to us where we went in the house and we kind of trashed the place. I don't know why. It all got out of hand. I think there was five of us little kids. We were probably 7 years old or something like that. I remember a big grandfather clock going over and teapots and chaos. So there must have been some inbuilt frustration, or we must have thought it was art and fun, or just craziness, you know.
Yeah.
But it just made me wonder how we did that, you know. It's a weird moment, you know, when your mind just goes into another place. You know? And we ran off from there, but all the dads started to come and look at us, come to find us. We got in a lot of trouble for that. Yeah.
You touched on a few of your influences, obviously, through pop culture, the music, George Best, closer to home, your cousin and your friend's sister. What about your grandparents? Obviously, your gran was Scottish, your granddad was a trade unionist. So how did they kind of shape you?
Um, well, they lived across the road in the same street. When we moved to the street, my granddad was a trade union man, so he could have had an office and a flash car and an adding machine where he liked to work from the front parlour at home, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother, it was her mother that was Scottish, so
Right.
I've got a bit of jock in me there somewhere.
Good
Um,
on you.
she always she always celebrated New Year home money more than Christmas, really, you know, the
Yeah.
true Scottish tradition. So there's a strain there, and and you know, my grandfather sort of got me a job when I was about 16, I think, or 17. I was waiting outside this factory. I didn't want the job, you know. I was happy unemployed because I was valuing the time, you know, and I was reading a lot and stuff like that, and trying to get myself together. And he got me a job, and I walked in this factory, and there was a guy, old Len, that had been there from the age of 15 to 65. He was retiring. He got a gold watch, well, it'd been a gold plastic watch,
Mm.
and a transistor radio. And I walked in there and I thought, is that my life before? You know,
Yeah.
I can't be in the steel foundry, you know, for the rest of my life in the dark, you know. But I got enough money to buy a guitar. I also caused a strike there, you know. So they all came out and strike. It was like, when Peter Sellers, I'm all right, Jack thinks. I came back one dinner time and it was all on these streets for me, you know. It was quite daunting. I didn't expect that. So they reinstated me and asked me to do the same thing 2 weeks later. So I had a big meet with the managing director. I said, no, you know, forget it. He said, if you won't comply to do this job, then you'll have to leave. I said, that's fine. So I walked down the stairs and said to the trade union man, who said, like, we'll come up and strike again. I said, I'm going to put my coat on, get on the bus, and I'm never going to work again, mate. I'm very brave. Well, you know, I don't know what it's brave for. I don't know what I was thinking, but so that's what I did, really, you know. And they thought like I lost my mind that I didn't, you know, want to do this, get reinstated again, you know.
Yeah. But
So,
you proved right all these years later.
yep, yep. So you know, at the age of 17 and stuff. So that's when really I used to have a lot of scooters,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost my scooter license. I ended up in jail for a weekend, and I thought that's taught me a lesson now. When I get out of here, um, I'm going to get I'm grounded to the pub and this little Spanish guitar I had. So that's what I did then. I started. Amazing thing was when every time I tuned that guitar, 'cause it was only about £5, it'd go out of tune.
Mhm.
So on one note, I learned to play Beethoven's Ninth before I could play proper chords. I thought I can play Beethoven on one string and a bit on the other. But so also I started doing little riffs, just like on a couple of strings and stuff, rather than tune the guitar every time it went out. Playing the chords. I'd start doing these little riffs, which I realised later how important that was, because there's a lot of little simple riffs in Buzzcocks tunes.
Mhm.
It took me about 5 years after we started to realise where that had come from. If I'd have had a good guitar, um, that wouldn't have happened. So in the face of adversity, I developed my style and stuff. Some of the posh kids on the other side of town, then their dads bought them the new guitars and PAs, which were impossible to get all that stuff. And you'd see them in the music shop a few months later. They'd sold the guitar and bought a pair of skis or something. So I had this little guitar, and what I'm saying is like, because it was so bad, I developed a style from it. So
Uh-huh.
I'd say to anybody, in the face of adversity, you can adapt things and come up with something genius. If it's all too simple on the plate, you don't get insight into things the same.
Well, that's probably if we touched on like the trash in the living room, and then this incident that this is probably the setting kind of punk kind of you can see the trajectory coming, and
Yeah,
once you look back in that it was you were always going to go the way you were going to go, weren't you?
yeah, it's quite amazing. Because my folks, my mum and dad were saying you've got to get a job. You can't be like just hanging around.
Hmm.
But I was reading a lot of books that they read at Oxford and Cambridge and all this. I'm reading a lot of lectures and a lot of things on the sofa and stuff, and sometimes at the library. And I'm going, don't worry, things are going to happen. But I never expected that, the group would check off or you'd be in a group, you didn't know what was going to happen to you. But like I say, all these things were coming together, really. And I wrote a song called Fast Cars, and I rehearsed this and a couple more songs with a couple of kids around the corner. And I thought, they've got jobs, they don't really mean it like I do. So,
Yeah.
um, so I phoned some guy at the paper. My dad stole a bass guitar off the back of a lorry, off his lorry. That's the best thing he ever did. I mean, he did a lot of things, but so I phoned. There were some ads in the back of the Manchester Evening News, the newspaper. I phoned. I phoned a guy up. I said, "Want to start a band, write a long songs? I've got this song, Fast Cars, and some other ones. Uh, do 3 minute songs, smash the equipment, and tell the audience to fuck off." And that was before I knew about punk or the Sex Pistols. So then I met this guy. I said, "I'll meet you in the centre of Manchester at the Free Trade Hall, and we'll go to this bar on the corner, Coxey Bar." As I'm stood outside the uh, the Free Trade Hall, there's a guy there in a leather suit, like the Elvis comeback tour thing, and it was
Hmm.
Malcolm McLaren, and he said they're in here, the Sex Pistols. I said, "I kind of know, but I'm forming my own group. And he said, "No, they're inside." And I thought, I don't know anything. I don't remember anything about this. But it's that classic Malcolm McLaren situationist thing. It's sort of, he likes to create situations. So he took me in, and Pete Shelley was collecting tickets. So I said, "I'll meet you in the bar." Then we had a talk. And I thought, I didn't say this. So, some of the things made sense, but others didn't. But we got on really well, you know. And Howard Devoto was there as well. I think he was doing lights, the Sex Pistols. Um, so the next day, we arranged to have a rehearsal, and three of us went through one little amp, and we did the Sparrow Scratch song, Boredom and stuff like that. All three of us through this tiny amp, and it sounded terrible. But as I said, to quote Yeats, "A terrible beauty is born." It sounded exciting as well, you know.
Mm. But the chemistry was there straight away
Yeah,
with that.
the chemistry was there right away. It was like magical, really. And me and Pete got on really well. You know, it was like it was meant to be. You know, we didn't really have to try. You know, when me and Pete played the guitars together and stuff, it just there was something magic there. You know, in some ways it was like two grindstones coming together and making sparks.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some magic there right away. You know, so when we'd write the songs on new songs to show it to it, they just came together really quick, really easy, you know. It wasn't a struggle, you know. And you realise there was magic there. And we did the first rehearsal with John Morel on drums and stuff. And you could tell from the first rehearsal that there was something powerful in the individual, you know. Something special, like that Buzzcocks sound, you know.
And
It was there right away, you know. It was just like the first rehearsal, wow, this is the Buzzcocks, you know. It was
and
amazing.
whatever happened to the guy from the advert in the paper? Did you ever have any other contact with him?
Um, well, also Pete and Howard they were waiting for somebody else to come in, and they met me. And so those two, so the guy I was supposed to meet, the person they was supposed to meet, they're probably still outside waiting now. Somebody better tell them it's not happening now. Somebody tell them I better go home. I think he did phone me, and I said, "It's too late now. I'm doing this thing, the Buzzcocks, you know." Uh, so that was a quick effect. That was kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's what I got through the book. There's all these just little points of fate that have steered you in this direction.
There was another thing that just before all that, my mum went to see a clairvoyant with a
Mm-hmm.
friend of hers. She didn't normally go to them things. When she come back, she said, "One of your sons is going to be well known, famous. I can see a spotlight." Now, I wasn't in a band. I'd never played on the stage anyway. And I said, "Oh, don't worry, Mum, you'll see me on top of the pops." Thinking, thinking it's impossible, you know. That's before I met the other Buzzcocks over weeks. Yeah. And that was very strange, spiritual stuff. So that was another thing. Within 3 weeks of me, her telling me that, you know, I'd met the others and we formed the band, you know.
And
So, yeah.
this meeting was June the 4th.
Mm,
You didn't end up supporting the Sex Pistols then, but your first gig came about 6 weeks later, July that year,
yeah.
and that was supporting the Pistols again at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester. So this is basically what's hailed as the start of punk, isn't it? And you were there.
Yeah. I mean, all the journalists came down to review the Sex Pistols. Um, Apparently, we started 2 days before the class and stuff like this. When they all came down to review the Sex Pistols, and then was amazed that this band, the Buzzcocks, from Manchester,
Mm-hmm.
had opened up, you know, opened up for them, you know, and so they reviewed that and put us on the map. But also the significance of that as well was the fact that we was based in Manchester, so it kind of put Manchester on the map, you know. And then the great thing from that, it was like, you don't have to go to London to do it, you know, it's a Manchester thing, Then there's like a Liverpool scene, Sheffield scene, Glasgow scene, Scottish scene. All them 70s nightclubs, all run down ones that changed into like punk clubs. So I think that inspired a lot of people as well, that you could do it in your own town, at that time.
Yeah,
So,
because if you look nowadays, like all these scenes that you mentioned are all very, very much kind of strong now, but in those days it wasn't that sort of it wasn't that kind of big, the scenes, and it was all London centric. So
yeah,
so I mean, there's something else that probably came for yourselves in the punk scene, that you have started that and been able to kind of create. Obviously, like you touched on Liverpool, like you had that
mm,
Eric's nightclub. If you look at all the bands that have came through that scene,
yeah,
which came after that, it's amazing.
yeah, and there was the Scottish scene and the Sheffield. But I think from that gig, it's either from Manchester, and Manchester started happening as a bit of a punk scene, first outside of Liverpool. And I think we're probably a bit responsible for that. Like say, people think, oh, we could do it in our town. And when we started touring in the early days, we'd go to these towns and they go, nothing was happening before punk. And now it's, the towns come alive. It's all exciting. There've been many, like I say, run down 70s nightclubs that were taken over by changed to a punk rock night. And every town seemed to get alive with all that, and the people who come alive with it. It was quite amazing, really, that.
And just before the gig, before this massive gig supporting the Pistols, you and Pete went out for dinner.
Uh,
So how was that? Kind of like the calm before the storm?
yeah, we went to the free trade hall and the lift doors opened and out it came out three drunken Sex Pistols, I think, Steve Jones, Paul Cook and Johnny Rotten. It was they was like a glamorous New York Dolls or something.
Mhm.
And they was dressed very bright for Manchester. People hadn't seen people like that there, at that time. Um, so we had a little talk with them, but we had a bit of time to kill, so we went for a pizza, which I'd never had in my life. I think there was only one pizza place that had just opened. So we had that before the gig, and a carafe of wine which I'd never seen. Um, then
Eh,
after that, we went back to the gig to play.
and round about that time, then you kind of found out more about kind of Pete's life, Pete's sexuality, stuff like that.
Mm.
Was that ever an issue, either in the band or further afield in the rest of the scene?
No, I mean it was. I mean the punk scene was very open-minded about everything. Um, I felt political, felt a bit angry. It was and also it seemed David Bowie announced things like that.
Hmm.
That gay thing and all that stuff. So it was like bring anything to the party. I mean, sometimes it wasn't that gay really because they had a lot of girlfriends. But I think now and again they like to drink from both taps, shall we say. But it wasn't an issue, particularly at the time. It seemed the more things you can bring to the table to, you know, open people's minds or,
Yeah,
you know, uh, give them something to think about on ourselves, the better, really. So it was never a problem, really. You know what I mean? It was, I don't think anybody bothered that much, really. Um, and like I say, he had a lot of girlfriends as well. So he used to, and he used to, in the early days, we'd drink a lot in the pubs, meaning. So he wasn't mincing about and stuff. He wasn't one of those kind of guys. I'm not putting them down, but sometimes he probably just liked to men here and there, something or boys, whatever people he was. But
yeah.
that was only a small percentage, really. of what we were doing, you know. But I thought, well, it must be good, you know. It's not an issue if he mentions that already. You know. There was more other things to do as well with the band. You know. It was about the songs and the attitude, really, you know, and all that stuff about
Yeah.
everything. Because it was quite revolutionary, if you remember, wasn't it? I mean, people didn't know what it was, but there was a lot of attitude, and um, it did open people's minds, and the punk rock spread like a carpet bomb through Britain, and it was exciting, you know, and it was a bit thoughtful, intellectual, it was a bit arty, and it was a lot of things, you know, and people started talking about their lives. There was a million people coming up on the door. They were talking about their lives, how they felt about things and stuff as well, personally, and all that. And some of the songs we were writing, like about the human condition and stuff, people could relate to. And I felt that sometime, you know. So there was that real element to it as well. It wasn't through the music. Um, it it changed you know, you had to rethink your whole consciousness about what music is at that point. And what it does is it just buying a record and tapping your foot to it. This made you think a bit or reflect within yourself for a bit, you know, like, who am I? What am I doing? And you could relate. You
Yeah.
could get things from the music. It inspired people to do things, you know.
And it all seemed to move so quickly as well. Like within the space of, like, with yourselves,
Mm.
about 5 years between kind of the initial start and then kind of the split.
Yeah,
The songs were also quick. Even between, like, you played this gig in July, your next gig in Islington with the Pistols and the Clash
yeah,
was in August. But in this time, you had built up a kind of team round about you. You had a manager, you had sleeve designers, you had John Savage, a journalist, and there was another lass who was it Linda. So was she kind of connected to Howard Devoto? They two were doing a fanzine. So
yeah.
in this quick time, there was a community forming as well.
Mm.
Um, so how did that feel then when you had all this kind of support network? Did that kind of make you think, yeah, this is the right path we're going down?
Well, yeah, like you say, it all happened so quick. But, you know, it did inspire people, you know. So people would go like, oh, I'm a photographer now. Sometimes in them films, they go, I've just got to the toilet, I've just written a fancy. I started a fancy, you know, on two pieces of paper and stuff. So there was some very inspiring moments of that where people, like you say, sort of around us. The guy Richard, he was answering the phone, and it goes, "They're not here," or something, and he became the manager because he was the guy answering the phone all the time, you know.
Mm.
But then we had Linda do that first art sleeve, you know, with the woman, the guy on the head, the like objects thing, the pop art thing. And things like that. Yeah, things gravitated around us, you know. And you know, we was like the band, the focal point of Manchester at that moment because there's no other bands at that point, you know. So yeah, it did all go very quick, you know.
Yeah.
And we'd be then the next thing we went to the screen on the green. They say the Clash and the Sex Pistols and us all on the same bill for £1, I think it was. I think you've seen the poster somewhere.
Mental. I wouldn't mind paying £1 to see the freeze now.
No, it's not bad, is it? And so all the people were dressed up in the audience at the screen on the green. You know, we all had the punky gear and bright colours and this and that. And so I thought that's crystallising into some kind of scene, or you know, this is what punk's like. Because even in Manchester, they didn't have the clothes like that, you know, in the beginning in '76. So that was kind of exciting. You thought, this is moving, this is developing into something, you know.
And
So it's exciting.
when you talk about the fashion, because obviously, like you mentioned earlier, with your scooters, you were kind of a mod.
Yeah.
So how easy was that kind of transition from mod to punk?
Well, it's only an attitude, and it's only clothes, and it's only a certain style, really. But it was the energy, the excitement, whether you're a mod rocker or whatever you are, you know, it was all still music, you know, and the excitement of punk and stuff. Um, it was about that, you know, about the attitude and the music, you know. I mean, I didn't want to be in some cabaret band just making music in the social clubs that I saw as a kid, you know. I thought that's, but with this band, when I got on the stage, I found myself and I thought, you can say what you want and act like you want, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
and
um, and there was that excitement in that, you know. So with the mod thing, well, it was easier to make the change, you know. I mean, it's like it's still like guitars and music, you know.
yeah, it's all about the attitude in it, and
Yeah,
both those kind of scenes were the same. It was the attitude.
yeah.
Eh,
I mean, at the Roxy Club, I had a pinstripe coat and stuff, which was very mod, but also
mhm.
punks had black coats and stuff with little badges, and so there was like a crossover there as well, you know. But it was developing into something else, this punk thing, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but but the other thing was that you know we thought there was no rules, you know. It's like you know who's making the rules for this, you know. Your punk's got to do this. Or, you know. Some people started telling us a few years later, you know, oh, if you're a punk, you can't do this and that. And we're going, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this is the thing. I mean, even looking back through all the years, even nowadays, the best music is made when there is no rules and no boundaries, and people are free to kind of create whatever their art form is. That's
yeah,
when you get the best results.
exactly. We was getting on with the music. I mean, we was very punky on Spiral Scratch, the early one, and Orgasmatic, the first records we put out in the 1990s,
Hmm.
um, which incidentally was put back 3 weeks because they wouldn't, the pressing plant wouldn't press it because they thought it was filth, Orgasmatic, you know. So we're not going to press that disgusting title and stuff, you know. Took us 2 weeks to persuade them that it's art, or everybody knows what an orgasm is, you know. But I mean, you can't believe it now, but at that time, it was delayed the release. But then after that, it's like under the umbrella of punk, there was the bands, you know, the nucleus, the five or six from '76, you know, the Clash, Pistols, Jam, Damned, and Buzzcocks, you know.
Hmm.
That was a nucleus of it. All the other ones came later, you know, months later or whatever. Um, but also from that, then the bands had to grow and get their own identity, really, you know, and that's what happened, you know. When the Buzzcocks started putting records out and albums, you could tell what the Buzzcocks were about a little bit, you know, the sound and what we were about. And the same with the Clash, you know, the Clash started putting records out and doing different albums. They became the Clash. But initially, everybody thought all the bands are the same. You know what I mean? Nobody knew what
Yeah,
it could
yeah, but that's it.
differentiate.
Like looking back now, that you are all different. There is all different sounds. I
Mm.
mean, when I was growing up, it was probably I found the Clash was the easiest out of these all to get into when I was younger,
Yeah.
and then it was I think it was you were next in line. I always kind of found the Sex Pistols were just too kind of shouty for me to like
Yeah.
eventually to get into, but it was a Clash and then yourselves that kind
Mm.
of repeat my interest. I mean,
Mm.
as we talked about things moving so fast,
Mm.
obviously you like this. The Screen in the Green was in August. You recorded the Time's Up demo, and then by December of that year, 76, Howard played his last gig with you. So this was on the space of 6 months, really, and then you're losing Howard, and the reshuffle within the band then caused me that. So how did all that kind of come about?
Yeah, I mean, Howard actually played, I think it was 10 shows with us. That was it. Only 10. When you think we've done about God knows how many thousands now. So he played 10 shows and said he was leaving. So it was a bit of a blow for a minute, but me and Pete looked at each other when he said I was leaving, and we thought he's the singer, you know. But me and Pete looked at each other and said, "Well, we'll carry on within seconds because we had, you know, what else were we going to do? We just started. We'd had a good review for the Spider Scratchy thing, but that was a good move. It was the best thing Howard did, really. Because then I could move. I'd done 10 shows on the bass. I could move to guitar, and I was a guitarist, really, not a bass player. And that's when the more melodic side of the Buzzcocks came in with What Do I Get, Promises, and also the classic lineup, you know. We had this guy Garth on bass for a little bit around that time, but then we got Steve Garvey, so that was the complete lineup. And,
Garth seemed a bit of a character, didn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously in the book, it kind of focuses quite a bit on your relationship with Pete, but then there's Pete's relationship with Garth, which is a bit of a kind of madcap time in it.
Yeah, well, they went to school together, you see, and we'd go to the pub sometimes and they'd be fighting, you know, and nearly fighting with each other. Pete's small and Garth was like a giant, you know, it was quite funny watching. You know? They'd be arguing and fighting, you know. And Garth drank a lot, and sometimes when we'd rehearse, it took me 3 days to get home because Garth would go, "Do you want to go to the pub?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, we'll have a few and all that." And I'll be going home a bit later, but sometimes we didn't make it home for days. So one rehearsal would sometimes take about 3 days to get home. But I think it got the better of Garth. The drinking and the whole thing about it. I don't think he had the right temperament, or you know, it wasn't lasting. I think it started causing problems, you know, and so he had to leave, really. You know.
Yeah.
But he had a great moment. I think he did. I remember he got carried out of a hotel on the White Riot tour, and the Clash couldn't believe it. He was more troublesome than they were in the hotel, you know. Bouncing had his arms and legs in this hotel carrying him out. So that was his exit, really, you know. But it was it was all right for the time. It was a good moment, but I knew in the long term we had to get somebody else and move on, you know.
Yeah.
And like I say, then we had, you know, those series of singles, you know, and we ended up on Top of the Pops about 8 times, I think it was, 7 or 8 times, and stuff like that. Not that I was, but I didn't want to go on Top of the Pops, so I thought the Clash are not going on. We're playing the real people up and down the country, you know, but the others wanted to go on, and
yeah. Well, you had to go in though because of that clairvoyant.
Yeah,
In the stars.
that's right. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, and I also thought as a kid when you watched Top of the Pops, you had all them comedy and funny things, but you'd always see like at least one band or 2 bands or one act on there. You thought, oh well, that's cool in the midst of all that. So, looking back, Top of the Pops wasn't that bad now compared to, you know, there's no Top of the Pops.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
it. I mean, you look back, you see like the old reruns there, and there was some good ones. I think like one that always sticks out for me was Doctor Feelgood.
right, yeah.
And that was kind of an iconic Top of the Pops moment. So
Yeah,
there was wee gems there.
they probably had more good stuff on than I can remember or realise, really.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we ended up doing that, but we used to run 32-day tours up and down the country. And, we'd go to the top of the pops and just do that and then get back on tour again.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time driving back we stopped in a pub in Stoke and the top of the pops came on the television and we all stood at the bar. It was like a little old pub. And the guy looked and he's going, "It's you guys." And we all stood at the bar with a pint of beer looking at it. He's going, "That's you guys."
Yeah.
They can't believe it.
So, August 77, you signed a record deal. For what I'm led to believe, it was the day Elvis died. Maybe is that kind of like a changing of the guard moment, you think?
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? That, yeah, it's like I remember waking up and the radio was on about 6 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "Elvis Presley's died." Gee, we're signing a record deal on that day. That seemed very strange. Yeah, it was like changing of the guard, didn't it? Then, of course, with that, we we signed on instead of running a fancy, we signed on the bar at a place called the Electric Circus in Collyhurst, everything. But also there is a string of deaths because Mark Bolan had a TV show for Granada TV, and he sent us a picture of him holding up Spiral Scratch and saying, "Love the record, you've got to come on the show, cats," and all this. Next thing, he died, So Elvis died and Mark Bolan before we got on the television show.
Right.
And then some more deaths happened after that as well.
So signing a record deal, how did that kind of change the band, like your way of thinking and stuff?
Well, it didn't really. I mean, the thing was, when we made Spiral Scratch, I think all of us, with some other friends, had to take the record out of the plain sleeve and put it in a picture sleeve. We did a lot of that. Although me and Pip used to nip to the pub with that, signing a record deal meant you didn't have to do all that. It's like we can't be doing our own labour all the time. It was our own labour. Can't be putting records in sleeves all the time. We've got to get on with the songs and the band. So signing a deal in that way meant they'll sort out putting out the records and stuff like that. But in terms of the music, we didn't think we've got to change the music because of the record company. It's like it just naturally developed,
Mm-hmm.
into what it became. Really.
What about the champagne? Did that kind of the champagne seem to creep into it more?
Yeah, we used to go to local pubs when we first started. Now, when you get to the gig, the roadies would be setting up. You might have about 4 or 5 pints, in a local pub. But when you start touring, there's no time to go and sit in the pub before the gig. Sometimes, So that's where the champagne came in. We was in a hotel somewhere, and we just ordered some for a laugh, and it was like, "Oh, let's get you up there quick," So we started drinking pints of it. They'd bring us flutes, engraved flute glasses and all this stuff. And well, no, we want plastic pint cups. What's wrong with this? And look, it's practical because on the stage, when you turn around, you can grab a plastic pot,
Yeah.
but with a flute, it could go down the amp and blow all the valves. The tiny and the music was so fast, you only had time for quickly. So that was the practical side of it, and also you could drink a pint of it. And more. That was just what went on. But also, they used to say, we've got this more expensive stuff, not just Moe, we've got all this other stuff. And, we got Bollinger, Tat and shit, and you've got to take that back, Or if they didn't have it there, we kind of phrase, no mowing, no showing, no shandon, no bandon. So go and get the champagne, mate. You know.
So,
But if they had the expensive one, then they say, well, why do you drink more? We got it's the bubble size, man, for the singing.
so you were probably the first divas before we had Madonna and Beyonce and all that. You were probably
well,
the actual divas.
well, we didn't play golf or do anything else. The champagne was just rock and roll fuel to me, you know. It wasn't like, oh, we're drinking champagne. It was just like that got you up there quick when you're knackered, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't the status symbol of it, you know. Don't go skiing or do anything. It's just like, give us a pint of that and drink it, you know. It was rock and roll fuel. But going back to the first album, so I'd written that song Fast Cars, and that was the first track on the first album. And, I remember writing that in my bedroom before I met the band and stuff. And then I did Autonomy on that album as well, where I thought, hold on, we need something a bit different here now, not just all that fast, straight ahead stuff. Because, there's other things as well, Stockhausen and stuff like that. And we grew up with Bowie and Eno, even the beat, the experimental side of things. So, Autonomy, I was listening to a group called Can, and I thought, it's a funny thing the way a German guy trying to sing English, It was kind of like, I want you for Mother Sky, all that kind of stuff. So I pretended to be an Englishman, being a German, trying to sing English, Because I was thinking, let me think outside the box on this. I was like 20 or something, 21, trying to, think differently the way you approach songwriting and stuff. So I started, I would use Autonomy, and that's how it came about. And then another thing about that song, so I looked at the guitar, and I just, for one of the riffs on it, I went straight down the neck with the chords in them. I just thought, nobody, that's just a weird thing of like that. And I think that was kind of unique. Nobody just goes down. And then they had that kind of riff, ding, 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 all that. Which somebody sent me a clip of Johnny Marr. He said when I heard that riff was the opening sound of Manchester. Ding, 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 ding. And he plays it on some video. He's talking about his guitars. So that song was kind of experimental in a way. It had a different feeling punk to anything that anybody else was doing. Autonomy, It was like kind of avant-garde and stuff.
It's mental to think that you had those songs written in your bedroom, like before you even met the band, and for them to come to fruition maybe 2 or 3 years later. It's an amazing story to think they were already there.
Yeah, I still got the tape somewhere. I've still got the tape in the tape machine, but I've never got around to playing it. Still got the tape machine, the reel to reel. I'll have to have a look. I don't know whether the tape might be gone, but I think I've got the tape somewhere with them original demos,
Oh, God.
I'd like to hear them. Yeah.
Taking these songs into the studio as well. He's recorded in Olympic Studios, which was famous for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And I think Led Zeppelin as well recorded in there. Man. And then later on he recorded in Abbey Road as well. The producers he worked with, mainly, there was 2 producers, Martin Russian and Martin Hannett. What was the differences between those 2 producers, and who did you prefer working with?
Well, when we did the first thing, we did it with Martin Hannett, who didn't. When we did Spiral Scratch, our independent thing, every time the engineer put anything right, this was a studio in Manchester, Martin Hannett would just pull all the switches, and it sound, made it sound weird, and he got that unique sound, half terrible and half beautiful, on the Spiral Scratch EP. But when we signed the deal, then we moved to Martin Russian, who was a lot more efficient. It was kind of a little, Martin Hunnett was very eccentric. Martin Russian was in a different way, but um, he, he worked with this guy, the engineer Doug Bennett, was a great recorder. So um, he took us on to that next phase, really, Martin Russian. But all he did, he let the band set up and play how we did and just captured that. And then we do the overdubs, the guitar riffs and all the singing and stuff in the Olympic Studios. And you can see that cover on Singles Going Steady, It was a massive room and we had these little lamps, But the combination of that seemed to, give us the sound. But it was great working with Martin because we'd go in at 12 o'clock and then we'd be out by 7 in the evening. We'd bang three backing tracks down, pick the best one and work on that. So it was all fast and efficient, everything was put away easy, It's like, okay, I've got the guitarist now. Go and record them, right? Okay, that's good, all that stuff. And he got a great production for us. I think that was pretty well produced to the point where, in those days, I think people were surprised at the production on that first album,
Yeah, well, I mean I was listening back to it this morning, and it still sounds so fresh as it would do back then.
Yeah.
And that all comes down to the production, doesn't it, for it to be able to stand the test of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's the one thing as well, the fact it was kind of like a live performance that he'd captured. Then we'd work on doing the riffs, and the singing. So, that it's got that live feel to it, but with a bit of polish, Very unique sound. We use those H&H amps. I've got them just in the back of me here. And that give it a unique sound as well. But that was our home Olympic Studios at that point, and they just got a really good sound for us, But really, they just captured how the band were and polished it up a bit, Not too much polish, but just they did a great job of that, So we'd be in there a lot for the album.
One of the songs I wanted to talk about, I don't know how happy you'll be with this. Probably the song that kind of you're most famous for, Ever Fallen in Love. And I've spoke to lots of different bands on the podcast. One of my favourite bands is a Scottish band for Dundee called The View, and they've got a song.
Oh, yeah.
They got a song for their first album called Same Jeans, and I asked two of the guys about that because it's one of their oldest songs. They play at every gig, and I don't think by any stretch of the imagination it's one of their best songs, but it's become like a kind of albatross in them. When they get spoke about in the media, they're always called the Same Jeans Rockers or whatever. It's always they always go back to that song, and kind of it's similar with yourselves with that song. So how do you feel about Ever Fallen in Love with? How do you feel about that now?
I mean, it's a great song, and like I say, it's we had I think we had about eight different records. We had Promises, Harmony in My Head, Everybody's Happy, and all that. What do I? They're just as good to me, Somehow that one's seems to be like the flagship song or something for some reason. It is very accessible to play on the radio for people, Something like Harmony in My Head's a bit tougher, Might frighten DJs sometimes. And all that. So that's accessible. But yeah, if you look at the albums and tracks like Autonomy and Why Can't I Touch It and stuff like that, they're just as good to me. You know, Ever Falling in Love is just one of a batch of what we do because
Yeah.
I think the catalogue's over 100 odd songs. I think I've written at least 70 songs for Buzzcocks, if not more. You know,
It kind of
amazing enough over the years. But it's great to have something like that there, but I don't particularly rely on it that much. You know what I mean? I don't think, oh, well, we've got Ever Falling in Love.
when I
It's
was
always great.
when I was growing up as
Yeah.
like a teenager and kind of discovering yourselves, and I always get mixed up with Ever Falling in Love with and Teenage Kicks with the undertones. And I always kind of found them similar, and probably I built it up in my head that it was the same band. Uh,
Right.
uh, Obviously, I mentioned earlier about the band that I'm managing, and I told them that I was interviewing yourself today. I says, but he might not be impressed when I tell them that they finish with a cover of the Undertones Teenage Kicks rather than a Buzzcocks song.
Well, it's their choice. I mean, the thing with the Undertones, they was inspired by the Buzzcocks, you know. They came after. But they heard the Buzzcocks, and you can hear a bit of Buzzcocks in them. And I know those guys well. They're nice guys, you know.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
you can hear,
Definitely.
you can
That'll be
hear
where I get the
we influence them.
connection from.
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear we influence them at some point, you know, to fair enough. But yeah, I mean, most bands get stuck with one song, you know. It's like the Clash with London Calling, you know. They did so much more.
Yeah,
Same with us with Ever Falling in Love. We did so much more, you know. But the album tracks and all that. So when you're involved in it, you know, writing the songs or making these albums, all the other songs are just as important in a way, you know. But it's nice to have them, you know. But we've got other great ones, I think, as well. You know, Promises just as good, you know, whatever.
yeah.
Harmony in My Head. A lot of people
Again,
like, oh, Harmony in
another
My
one
Head.
that you wrote in your bedroom all those years ago.
That's right, yeah.
Um, Obviously, the second album came out, Love Bites.
Mm.
But shortly after that, kind of there seemed to be like a change in Pete. Um, how did kind of how did you deal with that? Did you feel as if you were kind of losing them?
Um, but we'd probably been to America a lot of times then. We was probably touring the world a lot. So we started to weigh everybody down a bit. We was either in the studio putting out the record, recording, making records, or on the road, which was amazing. But when you start traveling the world doing it, and there's no time anywhere, it can get a bit crazy, you know. I think by the third album, he was getting a bit tired and confused or whatever, you know. I think he was just worn out. I mean, we all kind of were. We'd done America a lot, and I remember we came back, we was a bit tired and we needed resting for a bit, you know. Because it was, like I say, we did 5 or 6 years of intensity, you know.
Hmm.
I still enjoyed it, but we did put out a lot of songs and I do a lot of touring, like I say, quickly in a short space of time, you know.
And obviously
But
touching on America, and while you were in America,
mm,
was this the time when you tried phoning John Lennon?
oh yeah,
So, you phoned John Lennon, didn't you? And so was it you get an answer telling you to phone back or something?
well then, you know, I was in the bar in the hotel and I thought, I'll just nip up to the room and phone John Lennon and see if he wants to come with a gig. I didn't think I'd get past the reception or it, you know. And I phoned up and some guy answered and he said, who is it? I said, it's Steve Diggle from the Buzzcocks. I said, I live down the road from him in Manchester. So I think this guy thought it was a friend of his. So he said, just hold on, I've got to have a word with John, you know. So I'm waiting on the phone thinking, fuck, if he gets on there, I don't know what I'll do, you know. I could hear him walking and then, you know, took a while and then he got back to me and he said, John said, could you ring back later, you know. Yeah, he said, "Would you mind ringing back later?" So that's as close as I got. I
That,
didn't bother. I didn't bother ringing back later. I thought,
yeah, it could have been an iconic conversation.
absolutely, I should have run back, but I thought, it
And
was a bit daunting.
And at that time as well, you had a brief meeting with the Ramones as well, which, I mean, the Ramones were another of my kind of favourite bands in my teenage years. Um, how was it you never kind of done more with the Ramones?
They came. We never played with the Ramones, but they were big fans of ours. We were fans of theirs because we got their first album came out just before we made Spiral Scratch, the first
Hmm.
record. So we was inspired by that record, the first one, and we played the Irving Plaza in New York, and all the Ramones came to see us, and I mean, we were surprised. It was like a great honor, really.
Yeah,
And they're going, we love you guys. We kind of just go straight ahead, but you guys take it to other places. You guys, take it to these other different things with the
different
songs.
directions.
Yeah, they it's got a bit more angular and a bit of this and bit, because we'd have straight ahead ones, but we'd have other bits and pieces, and go off in put other things in there, a few avant-garde things. Whereas all their songs are straight, yeah.
Hmm.
So they liked all the other things, They
And
liked all that. So it was great to meet them, and like I say, they were all big fans, which we didn't know really.
and then 1980, back
Mm.
into the studio again with Martin Hannett. Um, and probably he'd progressed a bit more for the last time he'd worked with him as well. Um, how was it working with him on the last three singles?
Oh, I mean, it was great with him. We really liked Martin, but all the drugs came in there. You couldn't start without the joints and then the cocaine and then the acid, That's all in one session, as well as the drink. So it became a bit of a party and it became a bit psychedelic. We recorded 6 songs with him. If we'd have done them with Martin Rushing, they would have been done within a week. But that took forever. We recorded, recorded um, in one studio in London for about a week or so. Then we went to the townhouse for about 10 days. And and it still wasn't right. And I said, at that time, I was living in Manchester. I said, we'll have to go to Strawberry Studios and do it there. We need to get on with it. This seems to be going on forever. Also, we had like cello players and viola players and people like that. So, what else did we have on there? Like, I don't know about saxophones, but but it was all like a little bit worse wearing the drugs. We didn't know what was on the tape. We had all these guests coming in, which was a lot of fun. Man, just play a bit like that. If you go in there, then another one would come, Oh, you're a viola player. Okay, if we can do a bit of this and then go in there. Well, we'd be taking the cocaine and watching them and go straight. But on the mixer with mine, it was, we didn't know what we had on the tape sometimes. Oh, forgot that guy came in and did that. And it seemed to drag on and on. Was, it was, it was a lot of fun and it was a
Chaotic,
bit crazy, but it was a bit wearing as well.
yeah. And so these kind of last three singles out, did Martin Rushent come in and kind of tidy it up a bit as well? So,
He tidied some of them up, yeah. Because at this point, I was on going to the studio in Manchester. It was like Pete stopped coming, and so it was me and Martin Hannah trying to do it. sorting it out. And then it was like enough's enough, you know. And Martin Russian had just come back from New York, I think, or somewhere, wherever he'd been.
Mm-hmm.
So he cleaned up he mixed a few of the songs, yeah, remixed them.
And then it wasn't long after that then the band split. There was issues
Yep.
with Pete Gabby. He was meant to be doing some stuff for Buzzcocks, and he ended up recording his own stuff with Martin Rushton.
Yeah, what happened was it was like time after them singles. We'd been to America. It was time to record it was time to record an album. I was saying, come on, we got to do a new album. And I turned up. We'd both bought these new things called Porter Studios that, you know, 4-track cassette
Yeah, yeah.
recordings. We went to shop for reel-to-reel things and say, they've got these things that come in. So we got one each. And I recorded 7 songs. And he had 3 on his. And it's like, where's the songs, isn't it? So we hung around the studio for 3 days, just going to the pub, getting stoned, hanging about. Where's the Martin Russian? It's still delayed in New York. Um, so I said, what have you got? And he played me this song, Homo Sapien, you know. I said, well, that sounds all right, but where's all the other ones? You know?
Mhm.
So when Martin Russian came, he said, I'll take Pete back. He just built a studio, Genetic Studios, outside of London. And he had these new things called drum machines, you know. And he said, I'll take Pete there and we'll work on his demos, you know. Because we got a drum machine and all this sort of new thing. And that turned out, you know, to be the Homo Sapien album. So when he'd done that, he wanted to leave, you know. So that was it, really.
Right.
He was supposed to come back with these demos and we'd do the album, but that never happened. So he left,
And
which was
it's sad, really, isn't it? But it's testament to how kind of it never really affected your relationship that badly. Like you were able to like this was 81, by 89 you were back together, and it was kind of he's the chemistry was all still there. So it's
I mean,
testament that it didn't kind of affect
yeah,
the relationship that
yeah.
badly.
Well, I mean, what happened with that was, you know, we was all you could see we're all a bit tired and a bit of this and that. So, you know, I was thinking myself, you know, if nobody wants to carry on, you know, if this has got to finish, it might as well finish, you know. So the fact of him going there and saying we're leaving, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
well, if we
Well,
don't
this
want
is
to
it
carry on, we
because
might as well do that.
well, if he'd carried on at that point in the band, but he wasn't happy, then it would have bled into the music, and the music wouldn't have been as good. So it was
Yeah,
probably right then at that time to kind of have that break.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was relieved then. It was like, okay, we're split up. We know where we're at now, rather than dragging anything on. Like say, yeah, people are tired or complicated.
Hmm.
So that was good. So what happened with me? I formed this band, Flag of Convenience. I had a single out in Sire, and then we put some. Uh, then I fell out with Sire because it was suddenly it was the 80s, and I'd made like a poppy single. I said, but no, I want to do an album called The Accused, and it's going to sound like the Stooges.
Hmm.
And I'd signed with Seymour Stein, this guy, and he said, I've just signed a girl called Madonna. And, you know, so the guitar music at that moment, you know, wasn't in. It was all like keyboards and all the 80s people, New Romantics, and all that was coming right, you know. So the guitars weren't really happening at that time. But anyway, I was touring up and down this country with Flying Convenience, and also I went to I played the Locomotive in Paris, next door to Moulin Rouge. Massive. It's a big place. All about 2,000 people. I had a few glasses of wine to say the least. They took me out for a meal. I told them I won't be that many, and I got very drunk. And I said, "What's all this queue? That's all for the Moulin Rouge, yes?" They said, "No, they're queuing for you." And so there were about 2,000 people there. And at backstage, I was putting my head in cold water, trying to sober up. Took advantage of the red wine. But it was billed as Buzzcocks FOC. Steve Diggle from Buzzcocks, Flag of Marines, started to abbreviate to FOC. And it was there, same also. There was a big place called the Metro um, in Berlin that we played. So there was rumours that we were back because I said to the promoters, "We're not even doing any Buzzcocks songs. We're doing Flag of Convenience songs." You didn't know. So you build it. But you've got to know. I just want people to know where you come Buzzcocks, but now you're Flag of Convenience. So the American agent heard that we were back, because I was being billed like that, even though we didn't play any Buzzcock songs. The Locomotive was amazing because they were singing songs they'd never heard before. It was new songs, it was amazing. And brilliant. But so that was the catalyst, those two gigs, really. We got a call from the agent to go, "I believe you're back." And I said, "We're not back. They've just billed me like that out there." But he said, "Do you want to, you never did a kind of farewell tour or any tour, eh? You'd come to America." So we called everybody else and we went to America, to do this 3-week kind of tour. Because we hadn't seen each other for 8 years, We hadn't all been in the same room. I'd bumped into Pete here and there and had got drinking, but not really. We hadn't all been together in the room, But that was a bit weird as well because we were booked in this rehearsal room in London called Easy Hire, and it had a bar. So me and Pete did a lot of rehearsing at the bar, much to the disappointment of the other two. I
But
think we rehearsed 3 songs in 3 days,
but
and then we
see
went
when
to
you
America.
tell that story like that, and how easily you kind of came back together and back together. It reminds me of the Libertines, obviously one of my favourite bands.
Right.
And it's the same sort of thing. Like for all the kind of turmoil Pete and Carol went through, they
Yeah.
came back together, and it was the same because there's something magic in that relationship, the same as you have with Pete.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, when we got back to do that American tour and how it was all there, like you say, it was the magic. And it was easy, and there was something nice about it, drinking together again, and and the magic was still there, like you say. So we didn't even
Yeah.
rehearse half the song for America, but it got on the stage, it was packed, and it was all there. And from there, we went to Japan and all places, and that was like, looks like we're back then, because we never said we'll be back. And we did Australia, and then they said they want you in Britain now, because we went to these other places first. We did Brixton Academy and all that kind of stuff. We did Manchester Apollo, all that stuff. So
Which
we were back then.
which then led to another album.
Yep.
Um, and the time in America as well. When did the kind of Kurt Cobain friendship come in? Would that have been that tour, or would that have been a further tour?
Um, that was a further tour. I think it was a trade test transmission tour. So I think we'd already had at least one album out before the trade test transmission album. I think. And so we had all these televisions, all set on televisions, and we'd play like a bit of an art film, bit of porn, a bit of this and that sort of thing. And at the end of the night, I had six down there. I used to smash them every night and try and get the smoke and get them to explode. I nearly got electric shock one time. So if you hit the wrong component inside, you get electric shock and die, you know. And if you hit it wrong, the glass will go in, but the smoke won't come. So I learnt the art of throwing a mic stand at it and the smoke coming up, you know. So we were doing a 2-month tour of America, and we're playing in Boston. And I came off the stage, and the drummers had said, "Nirvana here to see you." At that time, that Teen Spirit was number one, and the album Nevermind was number one. So within seconds, they all came in. You know, Kurt came and said, "Love the way you smashed the television, man," and all this, you know, enjoyed the gig. So I said, "There's an art to it." I told him, I said, "I nearly got electrocuted, but perfected the art." I said, "You know, if you hit it right, it'll implode, and then the smoke comes." And he's going, "Oh, really? That's it?" Or that. He said, "You don't ever smash one television." I said, "Look, I've just smashed them all around Britain, Europe, and now America." I said, "You're not live, man. You want to smash one, I'll show you how to do it, you know." So we got on really well, you know. And Dave Grohl was there, and Chris Snow was there. So we got on well with them, and then they wanted us to join on their American tour, but I said, we're booked for 2 months here. So when you come to Europe, give us a call, and we'll come and join you. And that's what happened. That was the last Nirvana tour for them. I forget what year it was, but so some of the others drove there, and but me and the bass player, we got flown to Portugal to these big stadium things, and then we did the tour with Nirvana there. By the end, at the end of, you know, we was in each other's lessons every day, all that, and then we said we'll see you at Brixton because we're going to do Brixton Academy together. In the meantime, they went to the television show in Italy. We drove back from Paris, and we said we'll see you in Brixton. And I think he tried to OD in Italy, you know. I think Courtney Love flew in. He tried to OD there, and then they flew him back to America. And then within days or something, he shot himself, you know. But by the time I got back home, really, he was all over the news. I thought, I've just kind of been with the guy. It was surreal seeing him on the world news everywhere, you know. You couldn't move for it, you know. Kurt Cobain shot himself.
So sad.
That was very surreal because, like I say, it felt like we just left him, you know. You know, it's like, I said, I'll see you in London. And then actually, it's like, well, I've just been with that guy, and now he's shot himself, you know.
Because I mean, you look back to that time and you kind of think, what would he be doing now if he was still with us? The music he'd been making, it was such a talent to kind of lose.
Yeah, I mean, it was there was the intensity of all that touring you could see and all the thing of it. But that made them great albums, and you know, like you say, if you survive that, you can see it's not too bad. I mean, he did ask me, he said, "How have you survived those years, Steve?" And I said, "Well, a sense of humour sometimes. You know, bands always get that. When you're in a van together over the years or somewhere, you develop that sense of humour, that kind of relieves the pressure, you know. You have a bit of a laugh and a bit of something to ease the pressure." And I said to him, "A sense of humour." He went, "A sense of humour?" I never heard of it. So it was quite intense, you know. And of course, I did a bit of cocaine on the bus with him and took all his cocaine.
Mm. So
Got delivered.
then going forward, obviously, you had 3 albums out in the 90s, 2 albums out in the noughties.
Mm.
How was it then, kind of moving on to where you're at now and kind of playing these Buzzcock records as a kind of elder statesman sort of feel? How is it kind of doing that at your age now?
Yeah, it still feels the same to me. I mean, it's never changed, even though I've got a lot older. The songs are the same.
Mhm.
The songs are still young,
So
but we
when you
play them
play
different.
like so when you play these songs, does it instantly kind of transport you back to a time?
Um, yes and no. I mean, I have memories of those songs, but also I recorded that album Sonics in the Soul last year.
Hmm.
So we do at least 3 or 4 songs off that on some occasions, not more. Um, and a few songs off an album called The Way, as well as like ones they know. So it's quite a mixture of a set. And when you get a lot of young kids coming, they just deal with it for what it is. So it's a lot different now than what it was at the time. I think it's better now because I've broadened the set out, or it's right for the time now, and
Hmm.
it's right for me because I'm fronting it and doing it. You've got to put your own stamp on and do it. This is the way it is now. So they're lovely memories of them songs because the ones from back in the day, they're like a very fabric, really. It's
Hmm.
kind of grew up with them and stuff. So because they're such good songs, it's always a pleasure to play.
And
And I've
as you
always thought
say,
that it's,
well, see as you
you
say
never
about
get.
kind of see what you say about having like the younger audience coming through and how they kind of react to your songs. Uh,
Hmm.
Obviously, I think there was maybe a bit of backlash for the kind of older stalwart fans when you continued the band. How did you kind of deal with that? Because I spoke to um, Baz Warren for the Stranglers, and I think he kind of get the same sort of backlash for continuing the band. But you kind of think, well, what else are you meant to do? It's what you've known for all these years.
Well, initially, yeah, there was a backlash by some people, but we had some gigs booked that we had to fulfill for the start. But also, initially, when we got back, I mean, we've been like this for 6 years now. I was playing a lot of the songs I wrote, so I thought that justifies me doing it.
Hmm.
I'm playing songs that my songs, fast cars. Why can't I touch it? I did all the chords and the groove. Um, autonomy, harmony in my head, changed stuff. I've written 60, 70 songs. Plus the fact we had the new album, and when we first before COVID, we did 11 dates. And I made sure we had a new single called Got to Get Better and the B-side Destination Zero. So we was playing that as well of that. And then we had a new album during COVID I wrote. And so since then, we've been playing all that. So I've got every right to play my
Yeah.
own song. I thought. It was like when Bob Dylan when Bob Dylan went electric on moaned. But now, after 6 years, they come to the gigs and they say it's all right.
Hmm.
I'm keeping right and got around to the song. So, I mean, a lot of young kids come that have only stuff. And they love like Senses Out of Control, per single off the Sonics and the Soul. When you play that, go mad, because they love it. And there's a video on the YouTube and Manchester Rain as well and stuff of that album. So what I've realised over these 6 years since that album been out, they know that and they know Ever Fallen in Love and they know Harmony in My Head, but they also know the new stuff. Um, and I noticed the change over the years. To them, that's what they know. and even a lot of the older guys, they love the new one had great reviews, you know. And I had a lot of messages on my media going, love the new one, you know.
Mm.
So it takes a bit of time for some of them old stalwarts to, you know. But I think most of them have gone now. The number guy that comes out, you know, the what they call the doubters or whatever they were, you know. But
Yeah.
I've got time to worry about them, you know. You know, you got people saying you want to stop now. It's like, well, I'm going to listen to you about that, you know, and that's a list of people at the beginning, you know. But I've taken it somewhere else. But also, before Pete Shelley died, he said he wanted to leave. He's getting old, he wanted to retire. He was telling me to carry on. Came
Yeah.
to my room
Well,
twice.
this is it.
So, no, yeah.
Yeah,
But
Pete, Pete
you,
really
you,
wanted it, so
he told me twice, came to my room, we'd have a little smoke and a drink on the balcony, and I said, we've got a lot of work to do. Um, Within days of ending that tour, he died, you know, but he kind of, I thought that was weird that he was telling me that twice in a week on the tour, you know.
yeah.
But like I say, you know, Fast Cars, Promises is my song. Why Can't I Touch It is all the guitar work. Old song. I've written 70 odd songs. I keep meaning to bring a lyric book out. So that's what I was mainly doing, and that's what I'm doing now, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, doing Never Fall in Love, I put it in as a favourite. When people when people see the band, you know, Manchester Red to me is great, and people love that and stuff, and the new one. So, but we've got a good mix of all of them now. You know what I mean? Which is nice. You know, the old and the new. You've got to have the new songs to make it relevant.
Yeah.
Because because you know, I wouldn't have done it if it's just what do you call it, a remembrance act or something. You know,
Yeah,
so so they're just
like a
so,
heritage act, wouldn't you? That's
yeah, and all that.
like Paul
Yeah,
Weller talks about that quite a bit. About he doesn't want to become a heritage act, and that's why he continues to release,
yeah.
constantly
But
releasing new material.
every time we've been out, we had new material from the first tour we did. That's how I made sure we had a single out, and then we've had an album out. Which brings me on to I've just written another album. I've got to try and find time to record it because we're going to America in a couple of weeks. We're going to Italy on Wednesday, America and Australia and New Zealand. So we're kind of busy all year, but I've got the album ready, the songs are ready. I'm like,
Brilliant.
I'm just kind of thinking, we've got all these gig books, I haven't got time to go in the studio and do it. I'm trying to figure out a matter of a week somewhere to put the back into, but that's going to be tight, you know.
Well,
But I want to do the second album, and that keeps you relevant. And we always put stuff out in the old days, quite a lot. We're quite proficient with it all, yeah.
and
So
that well, once you bring out this album as well, because if you're talking, you're not going to get it out this year. I wouldn't imagine you're going into 2025, and then 2026 will be
yeah,
the 50-year milestone. So it's a fantastic achievement to spend that long in music and outlive a lot of your kind of peers.
yeah,
To the point where obviously 2022 you were inducted into the Camden Music Walk of Fame as well.
mm,
Some words from both Gary Crowley and Carol Barat, a Libertine.
yeah.
Um, how did that feel then to kind of get that recognition after all that time?
Well, it was kind of all right. It was a day out, but I didn't really bother that much, you know. But in other ways, you know, it's a great honour to have a paving stone there in Camden High Street in London, you know. So the people that do that, I mean, it was great that they recognised that you know, the Buzzcocks in that way, you know.
Hmm.
This guy Lee Bennett, that was it. He said, "You've got to get the Buzzcocks. We've got to get a Buzzcocks stone there for you know." And so you've got like the Who, Madness, and all that stuff. Amy Winehouse and Buzzcocks there. So it's important. Buzzcocks are known, remembered, and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he did a review of my album on a radio station, song by song. and he loved the new album, Sonic's in the Soul. So he's one of them that like loved the new album, man, and all that, you know. So that shows it's still moving, you know.
Yeah,
Even though we put the stone down,
the fire's still there.
yeah.
Now, just the last bit, obviously, like
Mm,
as I say, I've read the book. I don't read a lot of books, no,
right.
because I'm ill informed. I can't find the time to read books, but
Mm,
reading your book last month, I get through it in about 3 days. It was a cracking read, and right at the end, obviously the thank you section. Well, a few people mentioned in the thank you. One that sprang out to me was Pete Jones. Um, I've had Pete Jones on my podcast.
right.
So where does the friendship come for him? I've not I didn't tell him because I wasn't sure if he was aware of it, so I didn't want to ruin it for him.
Yeah, I've not spoken to him since. And I mean, we've been mates for many years. When I was in, I think in the early days of me moving to London, which is 30 odd years ago, um, um, I think Pete was working in Carnaby Street in a mod shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and then he followed me out, you know, we got talking and stuff. And I think we exchanged numbers. And from there on in, I was going out with this girl at the time. She said, don't hang around with him. Well, the girl went, but me and him, we was hanging around Camden and London for 15 years here, if not more, you know. One guy
Brilliant.
looked at it. So that was a thing. And kind of met him in this mod shop called Sherry's in Carnaby Street. And we just started hanging around together. We'd been go to the same pubs like the Good Mixer in Camden and all that scene, you know. So we was all on that. So, you know, we was good mates. We'd be out every night in those days.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
He
that's where it
posted a
comes.
wee story on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. I think he rents out one of his houses for as a holiday home, and I think he had two Dutch people staying, and they came into his apartment to speak to him about something. He was playing the Buzzcocks, and this Dutch gentleman ended up having like a 2 hour conversation with him about the Buzzcocks, all because he'd been playing it and the friendship with yourself, man. It's a brilliant story. Um,
Wow.
Pete's a brilliant guy. Been through a lot the last couple of years, and he's doing really well. One of my favourite guests in the podcast. I was honoured to see that the two of you were friends.
Oh, yeah. I went down to his house about a year ago. I've not had the time recently, but he's been here on mine now. And I went
Mm-hmm.
down to stay with him a few days to have a look where he'd moved, didn't he? So we're still in touch and everything. Just that I'm so busy on the road and living in London. He's there now, but we know we're still good friends. You know, we're still good mates, and that'll never die. And that's all good, you
Brilliant.
know. But
Another another
that's
couple.
amazing. That's amazing about the Buzzcocks, though, isn't it? Really, around the world, there's always a lot of people love the Buzzcocks, you know, because the catalogue and the songs were pretty powerful. I guess, really, you know, people.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's
a
what I say.
nice story.
The fire will never burn out, will it? And
Yeah.
and that's the other people that I noticed in the thank you section are Liam, Debs, and Katie. Is would that be Liam Gallagher and his wife and Katie
Yeah,
Glyfer?
yeah.
Because
It's big.
obviously,
Well,
Katie, I have a lot of dealings with Katie for the podcast, and it was Katie
yeah,
that initially sent the email about your book, and then she passed me on to Deborah.
yeah.
Again, if these are the people you're thanking, you're in the right company. They're really nice people.
Well, the thing is, I mean, they live at the back of me. My house is here on Archway Road. They live at the back. Their garden starts where mine ends. It's so I've had, you know, had quite a few drinks with Katie and Liam and Deb when they're around. You know, we used to have a lot when he just finished in BDI. But
Hmm.
you know, I'll have a drink with him here and there. So kind of know them socially as well, you know. No.
Yeah.
But they're
Crack
great, so it's
people.
good company. Good company, yeah.
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 Yeah, so as I say, you're in the right company. They're
Yeah.
all. I think Katie's one of the best people I've met. Man, she's really helped me out with the podcast. I'll be forever grateful for everything she does for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that she gets me Liam Gallagher one day for the podcast.
She probably might do. I'm sure she will.
Yeah, she got me tickets. She got me tickets last month to see him in Glasgow. Got guest
Okay.
list, so I can't grumble at that. Obviously, the podcast called Time for Heroes. It's named after the Libertines.
Yeah.
The last bit of the podcast, I asked my guest, and this might be harder for you because of your your long career in music. Could you
Yeah.
pick at some people that you would call heroes that you could take to a dinner party?
Um, well, it's loads, really. Mick Jones from the Clash, or all the Clash, really. Steve Jones from the Pistols.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Weller, Bruce Foxton, Pete and Carl. I've known them for years on and off, you know. Via Pete, you know, via Welsh Pete. So all those kind of people, really. You know. All the ones that grew up in the punk days, with, you know, those bands, the Clash,
Mm-hmm.
Pistols, Jam.
It must be so hard for a guy with your career to be able to kind of just pick out a small selection because there's so many that you've rubbed shoulders with. But it's been absolute. This has been an absolute dream speaking to yourself. An absolute honour, and I wish you all the best with the book. When is the book out?
22nd of August, I think. Yeah.
22nd of August. As I
Yeah.
say, I don't read many books, but
Yeah.
this one just it's the best I've read in about 5 years anyway.
Thanks a lot for that.
Anybody that goes out and buys it, they'll enjoy it really well. It'll be done in a couple of days. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
So all the best with that, and all the best with your touring, and
Yeah.
hopefully a new album coming up in the next couple of years. But for coming on the show today, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Yeah, and I've got to keep writing the songs, and I'm running out of life myself, you know. So, and for the band, you know. So, I just think it's important to live every moment till you can, you know. And if I drop dead on the stage, that'll be the right place, you know. But the fans are still loving it. That's the great thing. So, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and you know. And it's great to still do it for, you know, people that come to the gigs, you know. When we do some of these massive gigs, there's a lot of people there that, you know, really love it. So
Yeah, as I say, it's a fire in it. There's still that appetite there.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Been a pleasure, man. Pleasure to talk to you.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks. Thank you so much. All the best. Cheers.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.